Right, hang on just a minute, David. My guest today is David J. Dadabo. Okay, and
Yep.
we're talking about the militias. You know, David, one of the things that I've said here, one of the things I tell people, you know, is the problem we have is how do you fight evil without becoming evil? Now, I talk about the Jews. You know, and I made an agreement here. I'll stop talking about the Jews when the Jews stop talking about the Arabs and the Muslims and the Palestinians. But if you can't talk about somebody, then you know who your rulers are. If there's somebody out there that doesn't want you to have any say, you don't want you to have a voice, don't want you to hear your version of the truth, then that's who your rulers are, and that's exactly what the whole Jewish Zionist cabal. And folks, that doesn't mean, now what that means is that the Zionists, the elitists out there, the 1% out there, the ones that control 90% or 60% of the money out there, those people are hiding behind the Jews. Because the little Jewish lady next door to you, or the little woman with the shawl on her over here that's from a Muslim country, neither one of those are the elitists. All of those people are being used the same way the Jews and the Christians are being used. You know, a good Christian, Sarah Palin, becomes the darling of the Tea Party and immediately speaks out for bombing Iran. Why do we want to bomb Iran? Why? Because they might have a nuclear weapon that they could drop on the 600 nuclear weapons that Israel has.
That would be one mess, wouldn't it?
Wouldn't it?
Well, the thing here, you also got, when you talk about Iran, you got to intertwine Japan into that. Japan was going to help, and they've been all along trying to, given the intel for Iran to build a nuclear site. And that's why Japan was hit with that tsunami and their nuclear plant failed because of a virus that was planted in their computer system prior to the event of the tsunami. Otherwise, the cooling towers would have worked properly, the tsunami would have went over them and everything would have worked fine. But that virus that was planted into that computer programming in that site, and we heard about it right at first, and then it went away, of course, by control of the press. But that was the whole thing that made that site as dangerous as it is now. And because Japan, using their rights to build and sell their technology to whoever they wanted to, wouldn't play along with Uncle Sam, things started happening to Japan. Now, I don't know what's going to happen hereafter, but Japan's suffering from not listening to Uncle Sam, and that's basically what the intel that I found out on it. And if you look into it, anything built in Iran's nuclear facility has a Japanese logo on it. So and Japan has very capable people over there working on it. So now, if as the Iran and other countries that want nuclear facilities. Now, we know that when Russia was allegedly disassembled, we'll call it that, and made a democracy, so to speak, that there were many nuclear arms that disappeared from their arsenal, and they're still hanging around somewhere. People have got them. And you don't hear much about that. But if a nation wants to build a nuclear facility like we have, and a lot of other nations do have for power, you'll remember the weapons of mass destruction that Bush never found. And this is how they manipulate the minds of the people, is create a terrorist attack like 9/11, take away the laws immediately of the Bill of Rights, because terrorists are all around you now, and we have to go get them. So we make a police state, And then with the police state, we little bit by little bit round up patriots under the Patriot Act, and they call it the Patriot Act, which it shouldn't be called at all, because it has nothing to do with helping patriots. It's got everything to do with removing patriots, and that's why they call it the Patriot Act. Go get the patriots that are exposing our flanks, they're exposing what we're doing. And that's what they did. In 2006, I was false arrested. I was wrongly detained without bail. I'd never been arrested in my life previous, had never had even a traffic ticket for 30 years. They held me without bail for 153 days while they were torturing me and abusing the system for cruel and unusual punishment, trying to get me to plead to something I didn't do. Okay, and that's on the record in the case, but they, of course, made it private so nobody could read it. But they did this to you too, Clay, and they did it to all other patriots that were outspoken on what was happening and trying to expose and protect the people. Because the people have all the rights. We outnumber the government, and we can take back the government anytime we wanted to, and we don't need an election to do it. We need to do it lawfully, and you can do it with the sheriff. You can protect your county. You have a safe place to live in your county. There's some states back east I heard are trying to remove the sheriff's rights from him. That's the worst thing you can do. The sheriff is the highest elected law official in the nation. Everybody else is appointed. The elected officer has power and trumps all appointed officers. Therefore, the sheriff can arrest anybody in this county for a crime, including the CEO Obama. Anybody else that enters into their county, they can be lawfully arrested. Each county is controlled by the people at a local level. So if you have militias that are well trained and well regulated, means well trained and can operate. Now you can't you can't defend the United States with 9mm pistols, or a Colt revolver. You got to have semi-automatic or fully automatic weapons.
Well,
and the only reason
anytime
we haven't been.
Anytime a communist country takes over, or a communist regime takes over a country, they go after three classes of people in order. One is the farmers, and they've been after our farmers for 100 years, since they stole hemp and made it so that you couldn't grow hemp on your property.
Right.
That was the start of the destructions of our family farms. And the takeover of the 9th plank on the Communist Manifesto, which is corporate farms. And folks, every plank on the Communist Manifesto and everything that was listed in detail about how they were going to do it is listed in the Protocols of the Elders of Zion. But you can't read that without somebody calling you anti-Semitic.
Yeah. Right. And here it is, people. If the constitutional laws and amendments don't really they don't really have lawful jurisdiction over you and I, unless we sign a contract, that Uniform Commercial Code. Okay, now remember that. The 16th Amendment applies to all corporations and governments elected into the offices thereof of three branches. So the internal, that's the big word, internal IRS agents. It's for the internal branches of the three branches of the government. So unless you sign a contract with them, when you become incorporated, you license with the state, you sign away your rights to the state, they govern you. They tell you have to have inspectors, you have to have all these things, and you have to jump through these hoops. If you're not a corporate, and you'll notice anytime the government contacts you, they spell your name as a corporate asset in high capitalization. So remember that UCC protects you for fully informed, fully disclosed contracts. So protect your rights. Get up with the sheriff and have a safe place to live. We take this nation back one county at a time.
That's the way we have to do it, folks. I mean, if you can't go out and reason. Now, all the information, if you go to the Free American website, the Free American website right now is a better source for you than my Free American magazine was. You can watch the films, you can learn, and matter of fact, we'll probably have this hooked up here. in a Consumer Reports thing that Max just sent me, hospitals should be places you go better, but too often the opposite happens. Infections, surgical mistakes, and other medical harm contribute to the deaths of 180,000 hospital patients per year, according to projections based on a 2010 report from the Department of Health and Human Services. Another 1.4 million are seriously hurt by their hospital care, and those figures apply only to Medicare patients. What happened to the other people is less clear because most hospital errors go unreported, and hospitals report only a fraction of things that can go wrong. There is an epidemic of health care harm, says Rosemary Gibson, a patient safety advocate and author. More than 2.25 million Americans will probably die from medical harm this decade. That's like wiping out the entire populations of North Dakota, Rhode Island, and Vermont. It's a man-made disaster, folks. This and the pharmaceutical companies have the doctors working for them. Every other commercial on television, on the Super Bowl or the Olympics, will be for some form of vaccination or some form of medication that they weren't even allowed to advertise 20 years ago. Welcome to the 21st century, David. They are killing us with not only that, but with the food, the corporate farms, government control of the food production is all part of the Communist Manifesto. Planck's
right.
Planck's
right.
government.
You know, these big corporate farms have gone out and they've actually put patents on their seeds, and their seeds, a lot of the seeds they patent don't reproduce. In other words, if you get a corn from, all farmers, they plant their corn crops and then they save 2 or 3 rows of corn and they'd use that for seeds for next year. Okay, well, these seeds, if they are patented, or they don't reproduce right, so you have to buy their seeds from them every year. In other words, they control the food from being purchased. If they don't like you, guess what? They're not going to sell you any seeds. So it's very important that people understand this. The way they're coming about to control us as a free people is take away our rights and knowledge and ability to feed ourselves, to clothe ourselves, to find work, to help employ, and to take the money you earn and use it the way you want to. And that's what liberty is about in the United States. It's the right to own private property. And that's been removed by the state because you signed with the state at a contract. And therefore they tell you you put up a mortgage on your house for 30 years, and instead of paying the principal off first, there's a law that Congress made that says that you have to pay the interest off first. Now, if Congress turned that around and said, okay, let's change that law, and 80% of the payment on your mortgage goes directly to principal, 20% goes to interest. People would get out of debt. This nation would get out of debt so quickly that the bankers would of course object to that because they want to control you for 30 years. And so the whole thing of a debt is to pay it back. What they're saying is, we don't want you to pay it back. We want you to pay our usury fee first. And then after 20 years, you can start trickling in some money on paying back debt.
That's it. Now, I've told people, I've come up with some answers, and I want to discuss this because we can do this right now, folks. If you, listening to this, wanted to actually make a change, make a difference, set a standard for your community, your neighborhood, your county, all you'd have to do is get in touch with me. Basically fill out an application telling us what your skills are, what you can do, what you want to do, where you want to live. We've got property that people are pledging and putting up to develop all over the country. We've got some in Colorado. We've got some in Tennessee. We've got some in Texas, and possibly in North Carolina. There, if we can get it back from the banks that stole it. And that story will be on my show later on in the week.
Mm-hmm.
plan that, David, I started the militias basically for the same reason you did. I saw what happened at Waco, and I swore I would never sit back and watch something like that happening on television again without trying to do something. So I went out and tried to organize the militia.
Right.
Did it in the governor's office.
You're aware, and the people need to be aware, there was a blackout, a national blackout on that at first, because people were coming to Waco by the thousands, and then they were roadblocking them from getting in there so they couldn't see what was going on. And there were militias, there were just general population people wanted to come and stand there as a witness to what was going on. But the ATF and as Jack the Clam and other good states attacked him, called them jackbooted thugs, which they still are today. Breaking down doors with guns raised, aimed at the person's head to kill, instead of going through warrants and proper procedures to make arrests. They would just as soon take you out, or that's like what happened with a great patriot, Mr. Cooper, in Arizona.
Bill and I were friends, and 2 weeks before all this, I talked to him over my tapped cell phone, AT&T cell phone. I talked to him, and we were going to put our magazines together, the Free American and Veritas. We were both doing shortwave at the time. We were talking about that. We liked each other. We liked the way each other ran their shows and the magazines. And we talked about working together and putting this all together. And he was killed 2 weeks later.
Yeah. Yeah, I know they've been trying to kill him for many years previous to that, for what he wrote in his book. But that book is a really good book for people to read, too. Behold the Pale Horse.
Yes, Behold the Pale Horse. That's a good
very
book.
good book,
And also, folks, my book, Mystery Babylon, is basically an equivalent. We've got the whole history of how Christian identity, who you really are, you might say, and, go on the cover here, it says, 2,000 years ago, the Bible told us of the coming of the New World Order as the eighth beast, the mark of the beast, and warned us about the Jews who say they're Jews, but are not. So, that's right out of your Bible, folks. You need to understand who our enemies are, who is planning this, and they planned it for a long time, and they've been running this world since the days of the Pharaoh, since the days of Rome, since the days of the Catholic Church. And they've used Christianity as a way to basically enslave people, I think. And they do the same thing with the Muslim religion and the Judeo religion. Be like us, believe like us, and we'll let you live. We'll let you live.
Yeah, and the Bible, I'm a firm believer in the Bible. I know that everything that it states will come true, and there's nothing we can really change in that. By doing things to alter that. You have the mark of the beast in Revelations and Isaiah. You have telling what's happening in these days. Other scriptures. There's the LDS faith, the Church of Jesus Christ, the Latter-day Saints, have scriptures that are written also that stand behind the Bible 100%. And they also have other inspirations that are directly related to help the people maintain their rights from governments that are oppressive.
Hang on a second here. I've got. Looks like I've lost one of my feeds here. Let me see if I can get that back, David. Let me see here. No, it looks. Looks like I'm still on here. Okay, what's going on here? Okay, I gotta redo this. Hang on a second here. Let me try to get that back up again.
Welcome to TalkShoe. Please enter the call. Your entry is not valid, or your call is... Your entry is not valid, or your call is not scheduled at this time. 875-990.
Alright, why isn't this working here? Try to bring that back up here. Looks like everything else is working. You can still hear me, huh, David?
Yeah, I do.
Okay. Let's try to get this back up.
Welcome to TalkShoe. Please enter... Your entry is not valid, or your call... Your entry is not valid, or your call is not scheduled at this time.
Well, the hell it's not.
887-590. Welcome to... Your entry is not valid, or your call is not scheduled at this time. 887-7559.
Well, evidently they didn't want you to hear this show on TalkShoe, folks.
Yeah.
I got blocked on
right.
that last night, or Saturday night. I got blocked on TalkShoe too, so I don't know what's happening with that.
Yeah, and what we, if you remember, the famous words of Patrick Henry back in 1775 when he wrote that, when he saw British troops beating people to death when they were tied to a post and they were whipping them with like a cat of nine tails, which has razors and rocks and things interwoven into the leather straps. And they were stripping the flesh off of these patriots that refused to buy a license to worship, preach. Okay? And so they were killing people back then in 1775 because they didn't want a license. Now let's fast forward to today. The media, the insurance companies, the pharmaceutical, all the big people that run this nation behind the scenes with their money are telling everybody you have to have a license to do anything, otherwise you're not any good, and insurance companies won't hire people without licenses. You can't get a job unless you have a Social Security license and a number. We're so far beyond what founding fathers wanted for this nation. And when Patrick Henry said, "Give me liberty or give me death," that we're 1,000% over what they put up with in 1775 and 1776. Of course, the Declaration of Independence was declared, and we had enough. And we need to remember that we still have that right in that declaration to dissolve certain political relationships. We still have that right because all of our rights are given to us by our Creator, not by governments. In America, all of our rights and liberties come from our Creator. Now, your Creator, you might say, is different than mine, and that's fine. That's what freedom of religion is about.
That's right.
And so we still have self-evident truth that all men are created equal, okay? But as long as that man over there doesn't damage me or my property, I'm going to let him do what he wants to do, okay? That's America. So when he starts infringing on my rights, trying to make illusions of law and force it down our throats to take away our rights, like the 16th Amendment, which is only for internal of the three branches of government, and it's clearly stated in the IRS law book that it's a voluntary tax by the people that aren't corporations. But you try to tell them that, of course they won't answer you, or they'll arrest you. But life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness, private property, safety, respect, all that lays on our hands, people. It's not, we don't have a right to have the police follow us around 24/7 and protect us. You know what happens, because that's what happened in Colorado. Of course, we know that if there were two people in there would have been armed, they would have shot this guy, and a lot less people would have got away without being hurt. But what the Jews want you to believe is that everybody's out there trying to murder people that carry guns. Quite the opposite. People that are 99.9% of the people carrying guns are there to protect you and to protect themselves from idiots that come into movie theaters and start shooting. So any store you go into that has a no guns sign on it, that's like luck into a funeral, because that's the site that crazy people like to go into, because they know that most people walk in there won't have a gun.
All right.
Militias that teach people the correct ways to work with sheriffs to take back our rights. And we do it one county at a time. We can do it. We can take this nation back. But we got to make your home safe, make safe areas in this place. They are going to institute more terrorist acts to try to get martial law pushed over on all the people before the election, in my opinion.
And folks, David, I appreciate you being on. I will invite you back. I appreciate your views on this. And I want to share this with you folks. This is under heading on why we need to move now to create Liberty Villages. Liberty Villages are for you and the veterans. Veterans that need to be there. They need a home, and you need the protection. This is what Patrick Henry. Part of this is what Patrick Henry said on March 23rd, 1775. It's been adapted for you right now, and I want to share this with you. It's up on my website because it really gets to the truth of the matter here. Mr. President, it is natural to man to indulge in the illusions of hope. We are apt to shut our eyes against a painful truth and listen to that song of that siren till she transforms us into beasts. Is this the part of wise men engaged in a great and arduous struggle for liberty? Are we supposed to be the number of those who, having eyes, see not, having ears, hear not, the things which so nearly concern their temporal salvation? For my part, whatever anguish of spirit it may cost, I am willing to know the whole truth, to know the worst, and to provide for it. I have but one lamp by which my feet are guided. That is the lamp of experience. I know of no way of judging the future but by the past. And judging by the past, I wish to know what there has been in the conduct of the federal government for the last 10 years to justify those hopes with which gentlemen have been pleased to solace themselves in the House. Is the insidious smile with which our petition has been recently received? Trust it not, sir. It will prove a snare to your feet. Suffer not yourself to be betrayed with a kiss. Ask yourself how this gracious reception of our petition comports with those warlike preparations which cover our waters and dock on our land, our 30,000 predator drones and 450 million rounds of 40 caliber hollow point ammunition necessary for a work of love and reconciliation. Have we shown ourselves to be so unwilling to be reconciled that force must be called in to win back our love? Let us not deceive ourselves, sir. These are implements of war and subjugation, the last arguments to which tyrants resort. I ask you, gentlemen, sir, what means this martial array if its purpose be not to force us into submission? Can gentlemen assign any possible motive for it? Has the federal government any in this quarter of the world to call for such an accumulation of weapons which could not be legally used in foreign war? No, sir, she has none. They are meant for us. They can be meant for no other. They are sent over to bind and writ upon us those chains which the federal government have been so long forging. And what have we to oppose to them? Shall we try argument?
Yes.
Hang on.
You're frustrated with your elected politicians? Get the news behind the news at truthradio.com. At Truth Radio, you can listen live or listen to a large selection of archived programs on demand.
Like this one now. That's Truth Radio, folks.